once you have an amazing resume, what do you want to do? You want to like shoot it out. You want to apply. You want to get it out there. And that's actually a bad approach. The 3 heart-wrenching mistakes I see a lot of people make when they're going through this process. And it's really the motivation why I'm doing this out of my day, because I do see this so often in the industry, and it hurts me to do it, to see this, because I see a lot of people just not making any progress. So I want to share this with you so you're aware of some of the common mistakes a lot of people make. The first mistake I see is like, there's a lot of resume selling coaches out there that is really just talking about product management resume, and you watch some YouTube videos all about resume. Like, resume is good, but it's not the most important thing. What you actually need is not really the resume, but actually the strategy of how you want to utilize this resume. And you got to understand, what is the macro market at the moment? The macro market here is actually, the context is that the market sucks right now. Like, there's a really good post shared with us here from Phil Terry, who's amazing guy. Like, you should all follow him, because he built a very good job search community for people who's out of jobs and stuff, but really good guy. But it's just like saying that there's no jobs in the tech space out there. So it doesn't matter how many resumes that you send out. It doesn't matter how amazing your resume is. You're going to get outcompeted from people that's more senior than you, and your resume probably get filtered out, because like one job will get like 100 candidates. So the problem here is not the resume, and don't spend the time optimizing it. You should just write one, it's good, get some feedback and just shoot it out, that's fine. But you got to think about a strategy. The strategy here is actually, the trend is that a lot of the senior people are moving back into IC roles. Like myself included, I have to move back to the IC role because there just isn't any head of product or director of product anymore. The market is like that. And as a result, you've probably seen this around the industry. There's a lot of principal product managers, right? That is like considered principal, or like staff product managers. These are IC roles, or individual contributor roles, created for very senior folks that still want to be in the industry, but they are actually be delivering things rather than leading a team. So that is the trend that's happening at the moment. And myself is part of that trend. I have to become a senior PM inside a big company. And then what that means is that a lot of senior people now that you're competing with are prioritizing money over titles. So they're not looking for like VP of product, director of product, CPO anymore. They're looking for like principal PM, senior PM, staff PM, right? They want the money. They're negotiating the money in the priorities. That opens up your strategy. For someone that's breaking into product management, you need to shift the other side. Don't compete in that area, but compete over titles over money. So you just want to actually get a product management title, some sort of title that doesn't prioritize over money, because like don't go for like a role that's like $200,000 or $150K just yet, because you will get there in year 2 and 3. But these roles are basically out in the open now. There's actually a lot of more junior roles or roles that's in a startup that is actually struggling to find product managers, because these senior folks, they don't want to work in a startup because they just got fired and they feel like, oh my God, I want to risk my livelihood, right? They flock to safety. So these smaller companies like startups and scale-ups and small medium companies, they're struggling to find product managers. So go for those roles, because that's where you actually win. And then the second thing is before the networking part, the second part about this is that this actually shifts. So when we're at the expansionary market, where now all these IC people, senior people now are sick of like working in an IC role, they want to go back into the bigger role, they will shift into startups and smaller companies, and they would take over those roles in those companies. So that's when you actually want to shift the other side, that you want to work for big companies, because no one works for big companies anymore. So this cyclical strategy changes. So just look at the macro market. Everyone's at the big companies, IC roles. Go for smaller companies, go for smaller roles. Cool. Nina, I got a question.
Yes, David. So when you mentioned that we have to look for the roles in this startup, and I totally agree, but I couldn't find any channel, because I usually find jobs through LinkedIn, right? And LinkedIn has all sort of things, but is there any way we can find out where startups specifically post the role, where we can go and talk to them individually, try connecting the people from those startups so that we can understand the role better, because startup roles are pretty challenging, right? And if we have to fit in there, we need to have a proper discussion first. We need to get in connect with them first, and I'm not able to get through that via LinkedIn. So is there any platform where we can do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn is a good place to, like, as a social media place to like connect and find people, it's great, but it's not a good place for you to like show your face and like really show some credibility. So I would say to do two things, right? Continue on LinkedIn, like find startup founders and just add people and do that. That's like the ticket to play. But also go to like startup hubs and startup events. Startups always have like these startup events in like co-working spaces. Go to these like, government probably funders fund these events like, opportunities in the agriculture tech space, like, or some sort of like StartMate sort of like pitch night, those type of startup events. That's when you meet the people. And to be honest, a lot of the time, startups just don't have the capacity to like, write up a job description and put it on the LinkedIn. They actually just want to meet people. And a lot of the jobs actually come from referrals. So word of mouth. And this is actually my next screenshot that you got here. Like most of the jobs that's in PM, the good ones at least, they come from recommendations. Like people would literally ping me and be like, hey Dave, do you know anyone here? Do you know anyone here? This is like screenshots. Like I'm like, yeah, it's cool, I do, blah, blah, blah. And I connect people on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of the jobs, the good ones at least, are hired, is through referrals from your network, from product managers that you meet in a hackathon, head of product that you might follow, go to an event, go and like all these things. It's through that channel where jobs are created, but where the candidates gets referred. So yeah, so that's basically, and this is just a few screenshots. Like I get this like all the time. And I also reach out to people and be like, hey, I'm looking for a role here. I don't want to write a job description because it's too hard. Like, do you know anyone that's good? And they know, refer me. And then, yeah, and then they go for interview. Makes my life much easier. So what that means though, is that your strategy is to attract and not to spray and pray. Like don't need to have write a resume is great. You need it because of your brochure, but don't spend too much on it. That is not the main thing. Your main thing is to think about where you place yourself. How do you attract the right people to come talk to you and get that referral through networking, through your side projects and through all that stuff. So that's the first mistake I see a lot of people make. The second part, which actually brings me to the second thing, is why you shouldn't focus too much on your resume is because once you have an amazing resume, what do you want to do? You want to like shoot it out. You want to apply. You want to get it out there, right? And that's actually a bad approach because you go into this like interview roadshow, which means you apply for a job. And what happens is that your resume goes into this thing we call the application tracking systems, right? The ATS. And this is a screenshot from like one of my last companies. You can see, I don't know if this is high definition enough, but there has been 480 people disqualified from a job, 223 that has been qualified over here. And then it goes into the next pipeline of like 41 applied, 271 rejected, and so on and so on and so on. So these systems are designed to read your resume, designed to qualify people at scale. And that's just how it works. That's the world. So what that means is that if you just shoot over your resume without any referrals and like any warm leads or anything like that, like it's just not going to go through unless you're like super niche and that company, no one's applying for that company. You have the exact skill set. They're like, that's very, very hard to find. And that's so by doing interview roadshow, what happens is that it burns your lead. So when you apply for a company, if they reject you, you can't apply for that company for at least 6 to 12 months because this system sees it. They're like, oh, like, yeah, you applied already. Why are you applying again? And then even worse is when you go through an interview loop. So even if you do get a call back, someone screens you and be like, hey, Dave, you're great, but this is not the right role for you. That gets recorded. And again, that blocks you out for another 6 to 12 months. So like, you don't need to burn the lead just yet unless you have high confidence. And referrals is the way to go. So yeah, no strategy. Spray and pray makes a bad impression. And then what you should do is you should think about this concept of like a candidate market fit. So, and we'll go through this as we go through this whole course, go through like, I think it's like week 5 or 6, we talk about this, writing a good job strategy for yourself. So you know exactly what you stand for. So you have a look at, and a good example, right? If you maybe let's just go back into my LinkedIn. I've created a candidate market strategy for myself, right? You can see this: global product leader, creator economy, marketplaces, fintech, right? These are the areas I want to be in. I don't want to do anything else. That's what I want to do, right? So that's in there. And then that attract the right people. And then if you look at my other stuff, like all of these things, I have positioned it to be marketplaces, SaaS, fintech. You can see this, like things I do, fintech, creator commerce, right? Link apps, all that stuff. And I've actually pushed back all my teaching experience to volunteering. I don't talk about my entrepreneurship stuff as much anymore because I'm trying to attract people to hire me in those companies as a product leader and so on. So Yeah, so coming back to this, you got to think about the candidate market fit. Like, what's your market? What's the market looking for? How do you fit into the market? And we talk more about this further down the track of how you optimize it, but that's what you got to think about. Now, honestly, no one is going to really call up your company and be like, was the really product test manager in a job description? Like, no one's doing that. And for those who is, like, that's a very particular type of role. So, that's going to help you SEO, right? SEO your LinkedIn profile so it shows up. That's first hacky way to do it. But the long-term strategy here is actually your LinkedIn is something you send to people when you have met them during a networking event. It's not the start. It's when you actually show how amazing you are by showcasing your project and how great of a person you are, what a great conversation, have fun, build relationships. And then maybe after the second and third time, people are, oh, look, this Neha person is amazing. What's your LinkedIn? Boom, you send them the LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is not the first thing. It's just your resume, your business card. What you should really think about networking is actually going out there, connecting with people through like really boring offline events, going to like conferences, meetups, and just doing that stuff with product people. Yep. And that is really how referrals are made a lot of the time. People meet someone, like, oh yeah, I know someone who's actually passionate about breaking into product management. I know you're hiring for someone here. Go talk to Neha. But then you got to understand your candidate market fit first, because another thing is like, when people are referring you, they are actually putting their reputation on the line. And I have so many people that reached out to me and be like, hey Dave, can you refer me to this role? But I don't know that person at all. So I don't want to risk my reputation, because if you look back here, this screenshot, when people do message me, they know I'm not going to waste the time. And I do the other way around. Like, I'm sure you have the same thing too. Like when someone's asking you for a referral for a restaurant, you're not going to give them something that you've never been to, right? You got to test it out yourself. It's the same concept here. So what you should do is think about this. You need to have good fundamentals yourself. You cannot not have any product experience or any product background or any product knowledge. No one's going to refer you that way, because they know you're going to fail the interview and makes them look bad, makes you look bad. It's just a bad thing for everybody. And so what you could do is you got to have good fundamentals. And what does that mean? It comes back to this ladder. Have the experience, learn the jargon, learn the knowledge. So when people are talking about product market fit, you know what you're talking about. When people are talking about jobs to be done, that you know what these concepts are about. You have built something, you have showcased that you've done it, you're already networking with people. But going through this is something that really shows the fundamentals. And if anyone can know that, hey, Dave knows product jargon, Dave knows product theory, done a course, he's already got some training with some product person that I know that is a good product person. He's building a side projects, he's in those meetups. It's just a natural process for someone to say, oh yeah, like I met Dave, he's a good guy. And that's how it's done. There's no magic to it, but this is the hard work. So yeah, so that's the second mistake, the interview roadshows. Try not to make that. The third mistakes, I'll talk about this, like again, more screenshots about referrals. Even when I look for jobs that matter and all that, I get referrals too. I never apply directly. I always say, hey, do I know someone who's in Amazon or Meta? Like, connect me, and so on. The third mistake that I see all the time, this kills me. This is the reason why I'm building Product Academy, is that people think they need a certificate in product management to get into product management, or some sort of AI skill, or even worse, like an MBA for 3 years. And if you just do a quick Google search or like product management certificates, there's plenty out there. There's so many, it's confusing you. And that's not a best approach, because product people don't care about certificates. There are no standards in product management, unlike accounting, unlike CPAs, right? Like there's no standard. There's the same thing as like, there's no like certified designers or certified software engineers. You're just a software engineer. You're just a product manager. You're just a designer, right? There's no certified QA, right? Like you're just a QA. And in fact, when you actually do interview, like no one cares about certificate. Certificate is not the highest thing you put on your resume. The first thing people look at is your relevant experience, how long you've been working, and in domain knowledge. And the certificate is like so far down a track that a lot of people don't really look at. And in fact, I know when I hire, I don't care. The people I talk to, they don't care either. So, but then there is a need for certificates. It's good for existing product managers that needs to get some sort of training budget that they want to go train on, and they go to the boss and be like, hey, I need to go into this training. I get a certificate as a result. It's great for that. And there's an industry for that, but it's not for us if you're breaking into product management. It's not the first thing you should focus on. That goes the same for AI skills. It's like the icing on the cake. It's not the main thing. And also MBA is great for management, amazing for management, but product is just like one part of an MBA. So don't waste 3 years doing an MBA because you want to get into product management. Just Just learn product management for like 12 months and then you can get the skills. And then you can get MBA afterwards. You should absolutely get it. It's a great thing for management, not for product. It's an overkill. So the best way to do it, side projects. Side projects is the best way to network, best return on investment for your time. Yeah, that's about it. And yeah, James made a really good point actually. Yeah, that's great. What a great example of someone who made it happen. Yeah, and AI coding absolutely is a thing now. Yeah, for those who hasn't seen V0, you should definitely Google it, V0. So what I'm trying to say here is this whole process is going to take you knowledge gap about 0 to 6 months, experience gap 6 to 12 months. So the whole journey is about 12 months. But in reality, I think from like 5 years of like teaching people and just like helping like hundreds of people getting to this average time, it's about 8 to 9 months, not full time, part time. If you consistently do this, you can get, like if you're not like being lazy, sitting around watching Netflix all day, 8 to 9 months, I can pretty sure bet on that. I'm willing to bet on that you can get a role as a PM in 8 to 9 months. You follow this path of learning, self-paced, get some training, build something, network, bam. Like it's a path that I've seen working over and over and over again. If it's not 8 months, if it's not 9 months, it's going to be 12. But it would not be 24. I can guarantee you that. It would not be 24. It would not be 36.